of advice for the new president? He is inheriting a pretty good economy, despite what people feel, all these metrics that you see. But what about advice to him on some of the policies that he's threatening to do that could hurt the economy? For instance, tariffs. Have you talked to him about tariffs? If you could talk to him right now, what would you say?
I have not spoken about tariffs. I think you should read The Art of the Deal. You know, he's a negotiator. He lays out some very tough things, and sometimes it works. We have to worry more about national security, resiliency, diversified supply chains, and we didn't. And also, we should have worried more about who it hurt. So while trade's got some enormous benefits, it does hurt that town where the plant closed. We had a thing called trade adjustment assistance, you know, which was supposed to give people retrain, relocation, income assistance if they were hurt by trade. It never quite worked. And so we need to focus on some of those issues. And to me, tariffs are a way, are a tool, properly used, that can help get some of those issues resolved.
I feel like I had to cover this video, right? As you see, this is one of the reasons why many people like me, I call the media the Democratic defenders, right? And they always want to be offensive towards the Republicans, right? They can't just be like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What do you see? No, they always have to put some spin on it, right? So Joe Biden, as you guys probably have heard or have seen, Joe Biden keeps insisting that he had a good economy. You don't believe me? Let's take a look.
My administration is leaving the next administration with a very strong hand to play. And we're leaving them in America with more friends and stronger alliances, whose adversaries are weaker and under pressure. An America that once again is leading, uniting countries, setting the agenda, bringing others together behind our plans and visions. An America which is no longer at war, which has made historic investments in American workers, American energies, American factories, generating the strongest economy in the world, which is now in a much better position to win the future against any competitor. These wins are not partisan. They're American. They benefit all Americans and reflect America's endless capacity for leadership and reinvention.
Americans know that's not true, so why is the Biden administration, along with his friends in the legacy media, continuing to push this lie? The answer lies in what's been the Bidenomics playbook since day one: twist the numbers to make Biden look good. Here's the actual state of the economy. First, Biden's spending spree left the U.S. with $36 trillion in debt. The interest alone is costing taxpayers over $1.1 trillion annually. Those numbers alone would be enough to debunk Biden's claims, but that's just a start. Let's look at the year-by-year federal deficit. There has never been a bigger federal deficit than the one Biden is handing off to Trump, other than in times of severe national crises. But we're not facing a severe national crisis. The pandemic is long over and we're not at war. Take a look at this. In 2019, just before the pandemic, the yearly federal deficit was just under $1 trillion. In fiscal year 2024, Biden's runaway train spending deficit hit a stunning $1.8 trillion, an 80% increase from pre-pandemic levels.
Yeah, so that was Joe Biden. I also put in a Heritage Foundation video as a way to counteract from the government side, because I already tell you, government overspending, it causes inflation. And it's no surprise that during Biden's administration in 2022, he had the highest inflation rate in 40 years. Joe Biden talk about our economy is strong. We live in with a strong economy. Yeah, okay. And then the twisting the numbers. Here's some ways that people believe that Biden twisted the numbers to make his economy look good. Inflation, right? Inflation, right? People say the inflation is down. Inflation is not down. The rate of inflation is down. If you think about inflation like someone gaining weight, someone gained 40 pounds in 2022, and the rate of their weight gain was 9 pounds a month. Then they were able to lower it to 3 pounds a month and say, look, I'm losing weight. You're not losing weight. You're losing your rate of weight gain is down, but the absolute amount is not. You're still up 18%, 20%. And that's exactly the realm of our economy right now. 20%. Inflation increased 20% compared to Trump's administration, Trump's previous administration. Compared to 2019, inflation is up 20%. That means if you did not get let me put it this way. If you did not average a wage increase at 5% a year, you lost buying power. You lost money. And you wonder why many Americans don't feel that the economy is good. But you have people like The Guardian telling you that Americans falsely believe that Biden's economy isn't good. That's why. Because if you didn't get, over the span of 4 years, a 20% increase in your income, you felt the impact of you buying less and less stuff, equating with the fact that stuff is increasing more. So people are losing more buying power and inflation is also increasing. Can't make it up. And then the job numbers we got. Remember, they had to redact 818,000 jobs from the job numbers compared to last year. That means they're overinflated. It was overstated, aka they lied. This is some of the fact twisting that has been going on with the Biden's numbers and how they're used to make them look good. But no one feels it. Because at the end of the day, you can tell me all day and night that a dog has five legs because you count the tail as a leg. But I look at it and I say, no, that dog has four tails. That dog has 4 legs and a tail. You think he has 5 legs. He has 4 legs. The American people saying, hey, that dog got 4 legs. Hey, this economy is bad. And you're sitting here saying, no, it's good. Look at these numbers that we created out of thin air. Remember 2021, 2022? Inflation is transitory, said the economists for Biden and Harris. 4 years later, we still here dealing with the aftermath of Biden's overspending. And this lady has the goal to try to lie in the face of a banker telling her, yeah, he's handing you a good economy. If everyone and their mama thought that, Kamala Harris will be winning. Kamala Harris will be going into office in 5 days. But they're not. Because in a democracy, in a republic, people vote on what if something's working for them or not. And everyone at an individual level, 75 million people at an individual level said this economy didn't work for me. And that was the majority of this country. It doesn't matter what you think, CBS, doesn't NBC, the CNN of the world. It don't matter what you guys think. It matters what the people think. And the people said, yeah, Trump's right. This economy ain't working for us. It may work for the super rich who, no matter good times, bad times, they'll be okay. But people who are working class, people who are middle class and lower, and even upper middle class, because if you look at the stats, just because someone makes 6 figures doesn't mean they're rich. Half of Americans, almost half of people who make 6 figures are living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, you heard that right. People who have 6 figures, 48% of them live paycheck to paycheck. So even even people who are like the top 10% of earners in our country are living paycheck to paycheck. And you want to sit here and pretend that Joe Biden's giving Donald Trump a good economy. Like I said, Democrats never want to take responsibility for any of their wrongdoing, but they want to take all the credit for all the good in the world. But I digress. This is about Chase CEO kind of giving nuance to the discussion. Let's continue.
Tariffs are a tool properly used that can help get some of those issues resolved. Unfair competition, national security issues. If like any tool, if it's misused, yeah, it can do damage too.
But your point is that you think it is a legitimate negotiating tool.
Absolutely. Every country is allowed to make its own unilateral actions. If you look at what China's been doing for years, they do this already. They've been doing
threaten and...
No, they put up their own tariffs, their own laws, their own rules, their own regulations. They make a lot of unilateral actions that they think are in their own best interest. So
exactly, and this is common sense. It's so it's not common sense to let someone just take advantage of you, right? It's not common sense like you doing business with someone and someone say, yeah, this piece of candy is $100, and you're like, okay, and you just paid $100. You're gonna be like, why is $100? I can't pay that. I don't want to pay that. Actually, I'm gonna go down to the person down the street who's charging only $5, and their cookies taste better than your $100 crap here. That's what they expect at a national level that we do. We give billions of dollars to Ukraine, not expecting anything back from it, putting your citizens in debt, putting your deficit higher, but we're supposed to be not in war with Russia, but we're spending money like it's wartime. Make it make sense. This is why people wanted Democrats out. This is why people wanted Joe Biden out. And the goal, if what you were doing were working, people would reward you with the vote. but it's not. People see it. Because at the end of the day, you can argue process, you can argue data, you can argue the statistics, but you can't argue results. And the results are in. You increase the deficit, and what do we have to show for it? That's my own. I don't like we can play semantic games. Republicans increase deficits and all this stuff. I don't care. What do we have to show for it? Higher inflation cost, an open border, less and less. Our cities are getting less and less safe. People in New York are scared to commute in the subways because of the fact that there's so many instances of people being pushed in the subway. People feel unsafe. New York just found out that some commission, I forgot the MTA, $53 billion deficit, and they're trying to find more ways to tax people in New York for lesser and lesser quality stuff. Make it make sense. If New York was a company, you'll say, I'll never invest in that company. I'll never want to live there. Me live in New York? I'll never live in New York. You hear that right now. I'll never live in New York. Poorly run, poorly managed. Democrats, y'all getting exposed in 2025. That's what I see it as.
It's not bad for our government to do that. That tool may be a useful tool, properly used.
Not the price of eggs.
No, of course. No,
That's
inflation.
part of it, folded into it.
It was inflation. It was all the money that was given out. If you go to a rural area and you look at all the things that were done, okay, those things like, even EV credits, all this green stuff, they don't look like it benefited them. They still didn't have jobs. Incomes didn't go up. Their schools weren't working. So you got to be very careful when you analyze what happened.
Yeah, because she's only looking at it from, she's a lib, right? She probably lives in New York because I think that's where the Chase CEO lives at, right? You're in New York, urban city. So you're like, hey, look, everything's great, right? But to understand a man, you have to take a walk in his shoes. I live in rural America. I live close to rural America. I see it. I'm like, damn. No wonder the poverty rates are higher in rural America compared to urban America because there's less economic opportunities here in rural America, right? I drive an hour and 30 a day to go to my job because that's where everything's at. That's where all the opportunities are. And when Donald Trump's saying, hey, I want to bring manufacturing back, this is why. And you wonder why Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania voted for Donald Trump because he has something to offer them, and Donald Trump has something to offer urban Americans too. Because whether you're a rural American or urban American, you're still an American. And there should be policies that benefit both of you guys. We can't cater 100% to you, but there has to be things that both of you guys can win from, gain from. And the Democratic Party has only positioned themselves as a party for urban Americans. And you wonder why you lost Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. You wonder why you lost them. I digress, though.
In our society about why people looked at these and said, this didn't work for me. I'm quite sympathetic. I do a lot of work with my wife in inner cities in New York, and she's been doing work in the Bronx for years. It's hard to look at parts of the Bronx and say, this worked. And this has been going on for 30 years. So, it's time that we fix some of these things. And yes, I hope we can do it.
Your relationship with him? Story, we all read that you called to congratulate him and he wouldn't take the call.
No, that wasn't true.
It wasn't true?
No, I did not speak to him. I called and left a message with his staff who said they called back and said they gave the president a message and he appreciated it. That's all that happened. I've not spoken to the president for a long time. I have called some of his people and offered my help, which I am going to do as best as I can. So,
he runs one of the largest banks in the United States. So bailouts, financing, he'll be a good resource to tap. I'm done with, as you saw from my last video, we talked about competence. Competence matters. And you know a lot about somebody based on the outcomes and the results that they gave, the fruits of their labor. You will know them by their fruits. You will know them by their actions. You'll know them by their results. And people see the results that Donald Trump got, and they're like, okay, we need more. And the fact that Donald Trump was able to recognize, hey, I put the wrong people in these positions, and they end up undermining my authority. I will not do that again. And American people said, okay, we're 100% behind you. Because he took accountability. He took accountability for the fact that he didn't know what was going on the first term. And he still gave a decent result that many people still look back on those days fondly. Now that with the added experience, 8 years experience, Donald Trump, like imagine, Donald Trump with no experience, people loved his administration. Now, Donald Trump with 8 years of dealing with politicians, dealing with politics, understanding this world, we have higher expectations for Donald Trump. And the fact that he's talking about negotiating with Greenland, this goes back to the Chase CEO's point about how Donald Trump is acting in the interest of his people. Hey, Greenland is a good strategic point. It protects us. It's around Alaska and Canada. It protects us from these little trade things that's opening up because the ice caps around that area is melting down, which is going to allow a new naval port. And everyone wouldn't have known that unless Donald Trump said, yeah, I want to buy Greenland. Let's make Greenland American. Let's make Greenland great again. If he didn't say none of that, no one would be researching this stuff. And people are saying, oh, you can't just take what you want. And Denmark's not open to negotiations. Well, it doesn't matter what Denmark thinks. Greenland said they're willing to talk. Art of the deal. This is what Jamie Dimon is pointing out. Hey, you should read Donald Trump's book, Art of the Deal. And that's exactly how he's operating his presidency. I need to read that book. But hey, I digress. I think this is this attempt by CBS, and this is why CBS and all these media people, they get called out partisans. They get called out Democratic propagandists because it seems they always want to look favorably at Democrats. They never want to take the conservative perspective when they ask these questions, right? They could have been like, hey, why do you think that Donald Trump won this election? For many Democrats, they believe the economy was fine. What was the discrepancy, Mr. Chase CEO, and your thoughts on this discrepancy and what in the end was Donald Trump winning? Can you explain that? That's, to me, that's how an objective person would explain it. Instead of just saying, "Oh, he's getting a good economy." No, you sound like you let your bias get in the way of that information. How I would have done it was, here's what conservatives think, aka how I think, and here's how I see Democrats thinking of it. What are your thoughts? You give it. That's more objective. That's a more objective interview. But the interview she conducted, it almost like she tried to get him to say something bad about Trump. Oh, look, he didn't take your call. Like, what is this? Wasting this man's time. I digress, though. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think the Chase CEO handled it well? Do you think the CBS reporter had ulterior motives with this interview, trying to get him to smear Trump? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.